Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our October, I almost said November because I heard a commercial on the radio on the way over. October Police Service Board meeting. Nancy's taken attendance, everybody is present, so we might as well get into the agenda. Unfortunately, Superintendent Lori Doonan isn't able to join us today. She's going to reschedule to our hopefully November meeting and join us then, but that'll be an opportunity to meet her. Many of you will remember Superintendent Dana Early, who's now taken another position, and so Superintendent Doonan's our what's the right word? The next one after Inspector Quenneville in terms of West Region, and she's responsible for this syndicate area. So she'll come in next meeting. So we have our agenda here today before you. We will have an in-camera agenda item, but is there anything else that needs to be added to the agenda at this time? So if not, then I'll seek a motion for the approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Pierce and Mayor Bailey. All those in favor? And that's carried. Declaration of pecuniary interests. I need to declare at this time? None? Okay, we have no delegations, petitions, or presentations at this time. We've got a couple things waiting in the wings, potentially for future meetings. As I mentioned last meeting, we'll hope to get our Police Service Board rep in from the Solicitor General's office, just waiting on more details with that. And I believe we're trying to line up something with Crime Stoppers as well to come in and give us an update on their work. So future meetings, keep that in mind. And if anybody has any other topics they want updates on or groups that we work with, please let us know so we can get that organized. The previous meetings minutes from September 26th are in our package. I'm sure everybody's reviewed them and looked at them. Is there any errors or omissions? So then we'll take a motion then to approve the September 26th Police Service Board minutes. Member Verhey and Mayor Bailey, thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried as well. Any business arising from the minutes that you would like to deal with? Seeing none, that means we get to move right on into the detachment commander's report, and I'll turn that over to Inspector Quenneville.
Thank you, Chair Haley, and good morning, everyone. By way of our report for September, I'll go through some of the highlights and some additional information to share with you. For staffing, there was one change for the month of September. Having said that, there are a number of changes coming in the next few months, but PC Noelle Middleton, she transferred to Brant from a detachment in the GTA, so we're happy to welcome her with her years of experience already, so she's fitting in quite well. No public complaints during this reporting period. The report from our community mobilization officer indicates that there was 15 mental health related calls in the month of September, and our MCERT worker attended 19 crisis calls, some of which were not mental health, but his assistance was greatly needed and supported at those incidents. There were 7 COAST referrals for follow-up. Of the 15 mental health calls, 5 of which resulted in apprehensions. And the other item that we've been tracking is the mean time spent in the emergency room with apprehensions was just over 2.5 hours times 2 officers. So for the month, we spent more than 26 hours in the emerge awaiting transition of care. Having said that, this past month, we did have a meeting with the hospital and our policing partners to move forward on our MOU for transition of care. It was a very positive meeting. There'll be another one coming up in November. Brant Detachment will host that with the hospital undergoing renovations. So we'll maintain the momentum from that meeting and work towards getting that MOU completed. Year to date, 240 mental health calls, so still trending higher than we have in the last 4 years. Other things of note from our community mobilization officer, Chair Haley had sent out a notice that we were successful in obtaining a victim support grant. We we received just over $60,000 for a grant that is going to bring the Child Exploitation and Education Program from Durham Victim Services to Brant County. I had hoped to bring Michelle Murphy here today, but unfortunately, due to a conflict, she's not. So I just want to share a little bit about that grant with you. So to date, the Victim Services of Durham has presented this approved vetted material to 153 schools in their region. The goals of the program is to educate the youth on issues related to human trafficking, consent, healthy relationships, empowerment, sextortion, distribution of intimate images, and online safety. It's a sustainable model that meets the needs of youth and educators and aligns with policy program memorandum related to anti-sex trafficking. And it's engaging for interactive learning. So they cover such topics as consent, healthy relationships, relationship red flags and dating violence, cyber safety, cyberbullying, sextortion, distribution of intimate images, and human trafficking. It's survivor-led, trauma-informed, and BIPOC leadership. Subject matter experts include an HT survivor who's now a Durham Victim Services employee and speaks on lived experiences. There's been a 150% increase in online exploitation. They do a pre and post symposium survey and has found that youth advising, they've gained more knowledge and understanding of consent in social media and online risks. And 100% of the principals at the schools that were involved want the symposium to return to their schools. So this is a pre-approved by a number of different school boards material that's going to be presented. So we're working on dates and working with the schools here in Brant County to offer that to our students here. So it's a really positive opportunity to engage with youth and share that information. So we're very happy to be successful in that grant. And that goes to Constable Murphy for her research and writing that grant. Final planning is underway for the OPP Youth Citizens Academy, and registration actually opened yesterday. So I don't know if anyone saw that social media post that Constable Buchert put out, but our Youth Citizens Academy is targeted to grade 10 and above. They have to be a resident of the County of Brant. It will be run from Wednesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Brant Detachment from January 10th to February 21st. The application the county has posted on their website and details on how to apply to that. So we're really excited to host the youth as part of our community mobilization and well-being plan for youth engagement. So we're really looking forward to that, and we've got some exciting nights planned for them during that period. So onto the school resource officer. I mentioned, I think, at our last meeting that Constable Rawan Aluzi is our newest school resource officer. She just started in that position in the last couple of weeks. And in terms of this report, there will be an opportunity as a board perhaps to consider whether this report still meets the needs of the board with a new officer in that position. There might be an opportunity to look at other measures that might be of interest in reporting back. We did have a meeting also this past month with this Grand Erie District School Board, so things are underway to reinitiate officer involvement in the school. We are also engaged in a discussion about an MOU because the existing MOU is from 2016, so somewhat dated, so we're working towards updating that with the school board as well. Letters to families have to go out from the schools to let them know that the police will be returning to the schools, and that's part of kind of next steps with the school board before the police are in there. By way of an introduction for PC Aluzi, she's been an officer with the OPP since 2022. She was the class valedictorian of her OPP recruit class and has served at Aurelia Detachment prior to transferring to Brant. Rawan holds a Bachelor of Laws, a dual Master of Laws, and a PhD from University of Manchester in England. Before becoming a police officer, Rawan held teaching positions with the University of Manchester and Qatar University. During her time with the OPP, Rawan established herself as a hardworking and community-minded officer, and she's known for her passion for the work with youth and has frequently volunteered her time serving in schools in her own community. Rawan, as I said, has been named our new school resource officer, so she certainly brings a wealth of experience in the education field to that position, and we look forward to her work in that role. In terms of our community service officer, there's a number of posts that Constable Vitalis was busy with this past month. As you can see, he was also very busy with a number of festivals and fairs and his motorcycle duties throughout the month as well. Constable Vitalis represented Brant County at the Police Memorial, providing escorts and also a number of dignitary escorts throughout the month as well. In terms of our focus patrols, you see that we did engage in a number of school-related focus patrols for the month of September. They're closed, and the Paris downtown remains open for foot patrols as well. In terms of our traffic management unit for the month, there were 143 charges, and we're at 1,950 year to date. In terms of the Crime Stoppers, there was only 3 this past month, 87 year to date. Next week, I do have a meeting with the Executive Director, John Hart, along with Brantford Police and Six Nations Police, just to talk about going forward and how we can work more collaboratively with Crime Stoppers in Brant County as well. Brantford Police Chief Rob Davis has confirmed that Constable Ed Bragg will remain in the liaison position for the Brantford Crime Stoppers for at least the next year to be reevaluated later on. So that's a good news story for us, certainly, because of the partnership, we would alternatively had to provide an officer to maintain that role. So we'll continue to work with them. Noteworthy incidents, you'll see there are a number of impaired related occurrences throughout that report, as well as property related offenses. There's reports of B&E and theft of vehicle, one of which we were able to work with our municipal policing partners in London and track down that vehicle, and the suspect was arrested. Our impaired occurrences, 11 for the month. And we're tracking it just over 2022. We've got 60 year to date. In terms of our trends and actions, violent crime for September was up 5.6% compared to September of last year, and up just over 26% year to date. There was a decrease in assaults, however, there was an increase in other crimes against person. Anticipating there may be questions about what that includes. Other crimes against person is a data set that grabs a number of other occurrences that we report on. So it's not to say that it is any one of these, but could be a combination of these. It includes offenses such as extortion, intimidation of a justice system participant or non-justice system participant, criminal harassment, indecent or harassing phone calls, utter threats to a person, explosive causing bodily harm or death, arson, or other. So that it's quite a range, so you could see how easily the other crimes of against a person could be increased. Property crime shows a decrease of 21.5% for September of this year. There was a decrease in thefts under and thefts over and fraud. There was a significant increase in mischief incidents for September compared to last year. I had our analysts do a breakdown of that, and what I can tell you from those mischief related incidents is about half of the occurrences are relating to a theft from a vehicle or an attempted theft of a vehicle where the vehicle was damaged. So that makes it then a mischief incident, or the vehicle was entered and rummaged through but nothing stolen. So again, makes it a mischief. 2 occurrences were related to the public washroom damage in Paris, and the rest are just occurrences, the general property damage reports. For example, a report of a car being keyed or a car hit with a tomato. So like a whole range of things are included in that, but ultimately the entries to vehicles contributes to the largest part of that significant increase. No changes in year-to-date for drug crime. In relation to motor vehicle collision, no roadway fatalities this past month. Personal injury collisions decreased, as well as property damage collisions. Overall, we're still 3.1% over our year-to-date collisions from last year. There were 8 stolen vehicles in September and 14 recovered. Theft from motor vehicle occurrences were significantly down, with only 8 occurrences compared to 13 the year before. Mental health calls showed a decrease of 10% compared to September 2022, and year to date we are still showing an increase. 911 calls were up by only 1. Alarm calls were slightly up by 22%, and domestic disturbance calls increased by 4.3%. And that is my report, Madam Chair.
Lots to digest there. I know we'll have some conversation and discussion with some questions. Sure, folks have some. Maybe I'll start, and then we'll see where. On page 17, I think it is. Impaired driving. So, kind of concerning to see that we're up. And I guess I just wanted to get some context, Inspector Quenville. Like, we're obviously doing a lot more ride events in 2023 than we did in 2022. So, is it 2 factors? Is it the fact that we're looking, like we're out, not looking, we're out more and more visible with ride events, and we're obviously successful in getting some of these people, or is it a factor of that you're seeing that trend? And I'm sure it's not just in Brant, I'm sure it's other places as well. Are we seeing the trend of that impaired driving continue to go up regardless?
Madam Chair, yes, impaired driving still continues to be a challenge provincially, but when I look back to the noteworthies, we're getting impaired drivers in every aspect of enforcement, whether it's a traffic complaint by a citizen, or a ride program, or collision related, or just a vehicle stop. So it's a whole range of activities that are in enforcement where officers are encountering people that are impaired. So it's safe to say that there's a lot more out there, but our officers are engaging with them too. So yes, it's absolutely problematic. And I think we need to continue with messaging, and we are talking about that internally, that the rides continue to be a priority. So, and being strategic about where we're doing those as well, that it serves not only as a deterrent, but that we're actually doing some enforcement and getting people that are impaired, doing impaired driving. So,
well, in my opinion, my humble, absolutely a priority to get the impaired drivers off the road. That could be a disaster for the community should something happen. And so that is great that we're getting those impaired drivers off the road. And I just wanted to make sure that people who are watching or reading wouldn't just interpret that, oh, well, there's more ride events, therefore there's more charges. It's actually what you said. It's through all these other ways that you're also encountering the impaired drivers. And I think that's key. And I know we've talked about community engagement, but that for 2024, maybe we need to think about how we want to help support that messaging out to the community as well from a safety point of view. Thanks. Other comments, questions, discussion points? Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I made a bunch of notes on that as well myself. So if we can just go to page 15 of the report when it talks about the Brant Traffic Enforcement Initiative. First of all, we're over 5,000 charges, which is double-edged sword. It's fantastic, but it's not good. And I mean not good in a sense that there has been over 5,000 charges laid. To me, again, I'll just reiterate the fact as I have before, it's evident that this was the right decision in order to get this traffic unit underway, and the stats don't lie. I've always said that the stats are there, and if we just quick math, you know, if it goes from July 2021 to September 2023, that's 27 months. So we're at about 186 a month, which is really good. And then in September alone, at 1900 September alone, and then if you take the 1950 for just 2023, that's like 216 a month. So for those that, you know, weren't sure if this was going to be a success, I think it's working in spades, and you know, hats off to those that are involved with it, because the public was right. There was some issues out there, and this is going a long way to put a damper to those issues. So I think the numbers themselves are fantastic. So I appreciate that. Madam Chair, you brought up the impaired things. Again, I usually, unfortunately, have to mark them on the page. You speak of impaired drivers, and then you get the one on September 15th who was not only impaired, but was doing 163 kilometers an hour at an 80. That's even scarier to think that, you know, obviously somebody is impaired that doesn't, you know, their reaction time and everything is obviously impaired, and they're doing that speed. That's just, it baffles my mind. And it's interesting, Madam Chair, that you spoke of, you know, different ways, and the inspector said it different ways, because that's a note that I wrote for myself. Is I wanted to know how many of the impaireds were from the ride events, because just in the top part there was 5 of them just from traffic stops. So, and you kind of alluded to the fact it's a little bit of both. But again, with the numbers, it's, you know, we're up, you know, 63% of impaired occurrences in September, and, you know, up 20% year to date. So as the inspector said, it's not just our problem. It seems that, you know, it's a problem everywhere. And I'm going to ask again: is there anything that the province is doing to help law enforcement in ways to tackle the impaired? I'm not sure. And don't get me wrong, I know you guys are doing everything you can, but is there supports that we can, you know, try and advocate to our MPP and such to get the province on board with any other assistance that they can add to the job that you folks are doing?
Through you, Madam Chair. I think the largest part of that is frontline availability and ensuring that we have officers on the road to be able to engage with the community and do those traffic stops and respond to traffic complaints. And for the citizens to, you know, report when they think that someone might be impaired, because oftentimes, and you can see it, there's one noted here, you know, that a citizen calls in to report that we're able to position ourselves to engage and intercept that. But in terms of advocating, I think the need for officers to be able to be on the front line is really what it comes down to, and to be able to engage and conduct enforcement. But we have the resources we need in terms of the technical work pieces of equipment. But there is going to be a new intoxilizer rolling out, but that's at the ministry level, and that is coming. There's nothing more to be done with that. And to your original point about the traffic management unit, next year, one of our traffic management unit members is a drug recognition expert officer. So certainly his skill set will bring a whole other level to the traffic management unit to be able to tackle this very issue, and his experience and passion for dealing with impaired drivers. I think we'll see an impact in that throughout the community. So I think that's a good news story as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And then I appreciate the fact of your clarification on the trends and actions when it talked about there, you know, there's a 600% increase in mischief incidents. So I appreciate you kind of going through that. But the one question I do have, and I kind of made note of it down below, you had said that, you know, the bulk of that increase is due to, I think you said, theft or attempted theft from vehicles. And then when we look further down in the report, theft from motor vehicle occurrence was significantly down. So I'm trying to balance that out.
Through you, Madam Chair. So it's attempted thefts from vehicles. So the vehicle was damaged in the attempt to make a theft. Okay. So oftentimes there would be nothing actually stolen, but the damage that was done trying to get into the vehicle to steal something is the difference there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm looking at Member Brown, and I think you're ready to push a button. Do you have any comments or questions that you want to?
Just one, Madam Chair. Maybe for everyone who's doesn't have the reports and that in front of them, when you say a 600% increase, that's a really, really big number. And it may set people back. What does that relate to in actual calls, please?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I had it here and yes, didn't turn my page. So for September of 2023, there was 14 mischief-related incidents in Brant County compared to 2 the previous year. So we're talking about a difference of 12 occurrences. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good context to have. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Member Verhey?
Through you, Madam Chair, just a comment and question or two about the wait times at BGH. Is that, I guess my first question, is that the average time seems to be down from when we started talking about this even a couple of years ago. Is that because the topic is on the table, or is that just coincidence that it seems to be going down?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think it's probably coincidence at this point because the MOU, while we've engaged in discussions, it's with the higher level corporate side of the hospital. I doubt that very much that it's trickled down to the front line at this point. So I think it's safe to say it's coincidence right now.
And further to that, could you provide some context as to why this discussion seems to take so long? Is there particular challenges that maybe we're not aware of that caused this to be such a delayed process?
Yep, through you, Madam Chair. Well, I think in part it was what you are all well aware of is the interim managers at the detachment, so someone to carry the torch to push that forward. And the hospital has also undergone a number of staffing changes, so the need to have somebody there to carry it with some momentum. So with permanent people in both those positions, we can continue to move that forward. They currently have an interim CAO. While she's not part of the conversation directly, she also will have some oversight and input undoubtedly. And as you know as well, Brantford General is undergoing some significant renovations. So I'm sure there's also some pressures in terms of their priorities. So while this has been on the table, so to speak, from the ministry since 2019, like I said, there's been a number of changes at Brant Detachment, as well as put COVID in the middle of all of that too. So there are a few of the other detachments that are still working on this, but we're continuing to push it forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
Question. Well, first of all, congratulations to the detachment for that grant. That's fantastic. Another project, another bunch of money coming in to do some good work in the community for the youth. Having somebody that has the ability to write proposals and all the reports that's required for that, and being able to tap into these different grant streams is that's really key. So congratulations to PC Murphy for the work that she's done on that. And I guess the question I have, I'm happy to hear that it's going to be implemented. So so 2 questions. That's the elementary school program. Like that would be for elementary students, that exploitation program, or is that for high school students?
It's intended to be both.
Oh, okay.
So the preliminary information I have is that they're looking to use the Canesville Community Center, and it has the partition in that large banquet space that will allow them to run both on the same day, with the younger kids on one side and the older kids on the other side.
So schools would be bussed in for
Yes.
the program. Okay.
And that's all part of the grant.
Perfect. So there's no obstacle from the school's point of view in terms of cost for transportation or anything like that. Makes it pretty accessible for them to be able to put that into the.
Yes.
Excellent. The next piece then on the Youth Academy, which another great opportunity to engage with the youth, probably it's grades 10 to 12, I think it was, and fantastic social media posts about that. Will that be communicated through the high schools themselves? Like, so obviously we have Paris, which is our only high school, but there's a lot of county residents that might be interested that go to Brantford City high schools through their guidance department or through whatever. Is there a way that we can share that information so that all those different schools would be able to have that to share with their students?
Yes, PC Aluzzi is going to be liaising with the schools to make sure that that information gets out there. So she's navigating those new relationships, and then we'll be sharing that information. We just discussed that yesterday.
That's just great. That's great. I know there's just so many ways that kids go to high school, and it's not just one way anymore. So that's great that we can make sure that everybody gets the message about that opportunity. I think you'll have a good group of folks come out for that are interested. So that's another exciting engagement piece that that I'm looking forward to seeing how that rolls out. Any other comments or questions, clarifications? Seeing none, we will need to have a motion to receive the report and the statistics for October 24th here for information. Member Brown, Member Verhey, all those in favor? And that's carried as well. Thank you. Item 8.1 in your package, page 29, is a memo from Heather Boyd, General Manager of Corporate Services, regarding the false alarm statistics. You recall they put together this new reporting template for us. So we've got in here what the current trends and stats are. I'm not sure if there's any discussion or need for anything right now, but obviously in September 23 they've issued more fines for false alarm calls. We aren't going down in the numbers. Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah. At the appropriate time, I guess I would, like in the summary's recommendations there, it says, as previously noted, staff is recommending a further discussion as to whether or not changes are warranted to the fee structure and the amounts to be held during 2024 budget presentation. I'd like to, ensure that we do that, and we've kind of talked about it around the table before. One of the things that I don't like about this system is the restart. To me, it's it's like okay, New Year, we can, and I'm not saying that any of these are done purposely or whatever, but to me, it's if it's a restart, then potentially if there's an issue at a certain location and they reset and they go forward and they reset and go forward, it might not bring to light for that particular property that there is an issue. So I think it would help on both sides of the coin if we were to not do that restart, because that might force some of these properties to look further into potential problems in their own house, right? So I just want to make sure that I know we had talked about it. I know we want to do it, but I want to make sure that we do that prior to 2024 budget.
So that would be next meeting. Cindy's nodding her head because we don't have a December meeting scheduled, unless we do schedule a December meeting. But Cindy, I'll defer to you then. That makes sense.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes. And I believe Heather was planning to specifically focus in on this issue at the budget presentation in November.
Okay, perfect. Yep, and I know we've had discussions on it. I just don't want to let that one fall through the cracks. That's
perfect. So
thank you.
Make a note. We've got to make sure that gets on the November agenda.
Perfect.
Anything else with the false alarm report as it is? If not, we'll also need a motion to receive that for information as well. Councillor Pierce, Member Verhey, all those in favor? And that's carried as well. We have some communications in our package. The first one, 9.1, is some communications received regarding 2023 Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Grant. I think that says reminder, not remainder, on the email subject line. No, it's not you. It's the person that sent it. So I guess it's just indicating that how they transfer money back and forth, and this is just a credit memo that would be coming to the county for that grant allotment piece. So this is more for information for our benefit. I believe the credit memo they indicated in here is for $9,702. I'm sure that will go against the budget line item within the policing budget. That's how it usually, Cindy's nodding her head again, which is perfect. It's always good when it's nodding up and down, not sideways. 9.2 is our 2024 annual billing statement package. As you know, our calls for service formula and how they do their annual billing. So this information is presented to us for the 2024 year based on the information from previous rates and information. So they've got some information on the cover letter here about how they've calculated that, and then I'm sure the county then uses that information in terms of how they allocate back out. Councillor Pierce, you have a thought there.
Just a quick question, and it's right on the very first page of the report, Madam Chair. When they talk about property counts, and I know that comes from MPAC and all that kind of stuff, but when it says 15,530 households, is that is that there's somebody physically living at that address, or is that houses? Because we're in a situation right now, especially in Paris, but in the county, where we've got several hundred houses that are under construction, but not there's no tenants, like that. It's not live, so to speak. So I'm curious, how is that number the number of households with residents living in them as a home address type deal? How does that work?
So only what I understand of it as well, it's based on the impact data, and it's for like the previous year. It's not current because it's always right. So one of the concerns, I sat in on a seminar once, and one of the questions I asked was, well, as a community grows, how does that get factored in? So Brant obviously is seeing a lot of growth, and what the answer they gave me was we'll see it in future billing statements. Like it's always a couple of years behind in terms of the data, and then that's how they generate based on population and houses, and then calls for service in this formula. So we're never going to be like absolutely current.
Right.
We're always going to be behind, and then moving forward. But then how does that? So when we get into like the complement of how many people are in Brant detachment, that's based on population, calls for service. And as our community grows, does that change? At what point does that trigger more people for inspector to have available to her? So that it's all woven into this. But for this piece, it's the actual cost for the county for the policing costs from this, right? So
right, no,
yeah.
and I appreciate that, and I like where you were going on the other, but I'm just curious as to when they get those numbers, is that houses that are being lived in, so to speak? Thank you.
I could
That's the word
certainly,
I was
we can
looking for.
certainly,
I knew it was right there.
we can certainly ask for that clarification just so we know.
Yeah.
We can send a message to them just to ask for that clarification.
Because that, like looking at it on both sides of the coin here, from the county side, there's definitely those two numbers are quite different, and then if you look at it from a policing standpoint, that could be a factor too, to your point, Madam Chair, in regards to potential increase in FTE as well, right? So,
And I think to add another layer, Councillor Pierce, would also be, we have 15,530 households, but how many of those are shared households with two families, basement apartments or shared houses or whatever? So yeah, where does population fit into that as well? Not just houses, right? So
thank you.
but I guess it's the tax part of it is the household, because that's how the taxes. So they're using households, and whoever gets the tax bill, because you're then building, the county builds their budget with the policing piece in there, and so much of that per person will be policing. It's clear as mud. Member Verhey, you had your hand sort of.
Yeah, no, nothing. Just to add to that, if it's based on previous year's MPAC data, that means that the house has already joined the tax roll, which means it's considered occupied, right? So if it's on a previous year, I mean, a house they're building right now isn't going to affect our policing budget, but if it's part of MPAC already. There's an assessment done when the house is completed, and that property is now paying taxes, occupied or not. That's likely the data that this is being based off of. So I don't think we're in a situation where we have all these vacant houses and overpaying for policing.
But they'll be captured future.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a note here also on the cover page of the Municipal Policing Bureau is hosting a webinar information session in November. We don't have a date yet or the invite. It's not really an open forum. I've been to one of these before, and it's more of a information. This is how it's been calculated. This is how we get the information. But if that's of interest to anybody, we'll make sure we share that information. Inspector Quenville?
Madam Chair, alternatively, I know our West Region liaison for Municipal Policing Bureau is always happy to come and present or speak. Having said that, we would have to provide him some scope because, as you can imagine, he could speak for quite a long time, which would be way longer than one of our delegations. So I just put that out there in the event that there's a need or a desire to meet with him.
I think one of the things that's on my mind, Councillor Pierce, is just keeping an eye on this as we continue to grow over the next few years, and what does that mean for costs, but also available people that are available in the detachment. Does that grow as well?
Right, and thank you for that, Madam Chair. And if I could, and that just kind of circles back to the point the inspector was making before about having the officers being able to be on the front line, right? So. And you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, if we look at the population of the county in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, one would suggest that with that population growth, it should be a few more feet on the ground.
You'd think that with that population growth, calls for service will increase. You can't do the same amount of work with the same amount of people when there's more residents, right?
Absolutely.
So we need to make sure that we advocate for those frontline folks as well, for the inspectors team, because we can't ask the current complement to cover more calls. They're already at their max, right?
Yep.
So then how do we make sure that our community's covered as we continue to grow?
Yep.
Now this is the piece. This is about the financial part of it and how the county will administer its costs and its contract with the OPP, and gosh, who knows, that might change with the new Police Service Act as well, because apparently there'll be no more contracts. There'll still be costs, but there won't be contracts between the municipality and the OPP. But we'll see how that shakes out too. So we maybe have to learn a new model after that. But I think if we want to have the contact that Inspector Quenville talked about come in, I think we need to make sure we give a little bit of scope, because we have a broad set of things we want to talk about. But if you'd like to have that arranged, certain as an educational opportunity to make sure we understand what this means and what does it mean for the future, we certainly can do that.
Madam Chair, if I could just kind of take that a little bit further with talking about FTEs and stuff like that. I guess it's on page 40 of the report when it talks about the total base services for calls and costs are based on salary, and staff is measured by full-time equivalents and such. And then it talks about the full-time FTEs are based on an average municipal detachment level from years 2019 to 22. The equivalent of 88.28 FTEs is what they're considering the average. Now, I know we're not at that, but are we considered, as far as the size of our detachment, are we considered a small detachment, a large detachment, a medium detachment? I'm curious as to how we fit in compared to other attachments as far as FTEs.
Through you, Madam Chair, within West Region, we would be considered a small detachment.
Okay, that's what I thought. If I may, Madam Chair, what about like with like Norfolk, Oxford? Are they in around us as well?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, Norfolk and Oxford are larger than us. And oftentimes you can tell because they have 2 staff sergeants. We only have 1. So single staff detachments are often considered the smaller detachments.
Okay.
And they're larger because of a larger population base.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Not just geography, but population. Yeah.
and all the variables that you just spoke about that determines their staffing.
Thank you.
So what, I guess what we don't know is what's that threshold between small and medium? Like where do we cross where we trigger more people, right? So I think that's something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Anything else on this matter? Okay. So is there interest then to have anybody in for municipal policing, or do you want to, November might be a busy month, but we can always bring him in the new year as well.
Madam Chair, I'm just wondering, personally, Mr. Mayor, I think that would be good information for council as well. So I'm just wondering if it might be possible to, and I know they've been in before and spoken to council about it. I'm wondering if we could kind of combine and potentially have police services maybe attend a council meeting one night to do that. Just kind of, because I think it's important information for us, obviously, but also I think it's very important information for council as well.
And to understand it.
100%, yeah, because it's there's a lot of layers to understand.
Inspector Quenville?
Through you, Madam Chair, we were endeavoring to organize that some time ago. There was just some conflict, so if we can carve out some time with for council, I'm sure that would be available.
Mr. Mayor, you think? Yeah, okay.
And to clarify, that's separate from anything that, like, we've been doing the twice annual PSB kind of connection. This is a separate piece.
I think it would be beneficial.
Sure. Well, we'll find some dates and coordinate, and obviously work with the Municipal Policing Bureau's time availability, and I think that would be great. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy thing to understand, so having that educational opportunity is good.
But I totally agree, Madam Chair, that there definitely has to be some scope to it too, or it could just go.
Yeah, we don't want it to be a wide open.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we'll work on that. Thank you, Councillor Pierce. The last item in the communications file is you all also received by email. The Ontario Association of Police Services Board, they have some funding to do training seminars, and they're launching the first of them. This is to get ready for the new Police Services Act that may be coming in the spring. We've been talking about that for 3 years now. Yeah, which spring? I'm not going to put any numbers on it. So there is, right off the hop here at the beginning of November, there's two options to do two different seminars. These are online webinars. I'm not available for the first two. I'm going to be away, so I asked. They will be recorded and posted on the OAPSB website. So if you're not able to make it to this one, then you can certainly watch them online. Some of them will be of more interest to us than others. These are just the first of the topics. They're going to be rolling out with additional topics as well down the road. So this is the OAPSB's attempt or direction to help police services boards be ready for the implementation of the training requirements and all the different not just training, but all the different requirements that we will, as a police service board, have to have. So they are starting to they've developed some curriculum, and it is in the new Police Service Act draft, is that before we can sit as police service board members, there's a certain amount of training we have to do before we can serve. So, and I don't know what the scope of that looks like, but this probably is part of some of that package. So something to be kept aware of, and if you can't make the sessions, register for them, and if you can't, then they're supposed to be online afterwards as well. I don't think there's anything else in the communications. So we'll move into other business. It's that time of year again for Remembrance Day coming up. I received a invitation from the St. George Legion for the Police Service Board, and I know we tend to also go to, Mayor Bailey attends, and I believe Councillor Pierce attends Paris, and then there's the Burford service. I don't believe we've received any official notification, but obviously, so Remembrance Day is on Saturday this year, November 11th. I'm not able to go to St. George, so I'm hoping one of my fellow members here will be able to go in my place this year, and that between Member Verhey and Member Brown, one can go to Burford and one can go to St. George or what have you. Assuming that the two of you are going to go to the Paris service. Yeah, so is anybody available to cover the St. George and the Burford ones? We're going to draw straws. You'll do St. George? Okay, great. In the letter from the St. George Legion, it does mention about helping with the they are evergreen wreaths. They're not live. They use them every year. So there is a cost that if we see, we did provide a donation. Nancy reminded me that we did provide a donation to the Legion last year in St. George for the wreath, and I believe we've done one for the Burford in the past as well. I don't know that it's an every year thing, but if we do feel that we want to contribute, they have indicated that would go to the Poppy Fund. They would gladly take any donations. I'm not sure. I don't know what Paris might be live wreaths. I don't know, but the two Burford and St. George are what do you call them? Artificial. Thank you. Brain freeze there. So, is there any monetary decisions that anybody wants to make or suggestions at this time? Member Verhey?
Sorry, just to clarify to you, Madam Chair, the donations to purchase new wreaths?
It's not to purchase new ones. I think it's just maintaining the ones they have, making sure that they can replace them on a rotating basis. Some of them look more worn than others, or
Did we actually replace the Burford?
I don't know about the Burford one. I know that a donation was made.
I think during COVID there was a time where we didn't have the ceremonies, right? And I think before that, I remember asking if we could.
Nancy has let me know that we do have new wreaths at all the locations.
Oh, good, yeah.
Mayor Bailey, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. Excuse me, Madam Chair, we did do the laying of the wreaths during COVID too. It was just a council thing, and the two councilors and myself. The public wasn't invited, although they came. There's already been one at the Legion out in Mount Pleasant, and police services wasn't represented there, and they really should have been. It was kind of noticeably missing.
Oh, we weren't aware of that. I don't think.
I know.
Yeah.
I think what you better do is get a list maybe from Spencer of all the leaf, because you should be in Brantford too, I think. And so there's about 6 of them altogether.
Is that the Six Nations one that you're referring to, or Mount Pleasant as well?
Yeah, there was no one in Six Nations either. We did that last week.
Okay.
And when I was laying wreaths for the OPP, we went to all of them.
Okay, I wasn't aware that the other ones were happening. I don't believe we received any correspondence, but if we'll note to have Nancy follow up with Spencer, so we can get the full list and make sure that we're not missing from anything.
It's nice to be there for them.
Yep, for sure. We would be there if we knew, so that we'll get that corrected. Okay, so we have a plan. I don't know that there's any donations required this year since we did St. George last year. We've done Burford previously. We can consider donations in a future year if that's okay. We'll get a list of all the Remembrance Day services in the county from Spencer, and then be able to plan ahead for that. I don't believe there's anything else on that item. Okay. The next item on the agenda is just bringing up, because it's getting to be that time of year, if the board wishes to continue, we've kind of turned it into a little bit of an annual thing here, but if the board wishes to continue with the holiday recognition token appreciation piece for the OPP members here in Brant, I believe in the past couple of years we've budgeted a maximum of $1,000, and we haven't spent that. It's ranged between $600 to $800. We don't have to get into the discussion about what it's going to be. It's just, I think today is a matter of just whether or not we want to allocate the budget. In previous years, we've done previous boards, there would be a breakfast, but as you know, we've gotten away from the breakfast because it was only at one time. This way, everybody benefits. We have the barbecues for all the platoons in the summer, and also it was good for distribution that everybody then got to partake versus just one platoon who happened to be there that morning. That doesn't mean that the detachment isn't going to do their own holiday type breakfasts or potluck lunches or whatever they do internally. That's up to them. But so today we just need to decide if we want to allocate any of that budget once again this year. Member Verhey?
I propose we just repeat what we've been doing, maintain it,
So the max,
or, yeah, if
So
there needs
would-
to be an adjustment, then
Yeah.
so be it.
Member Brown? You'll second that? Member Verhey, that'll be a motion from you then? So the same maximum $1,000 up to a maximum of $1,000
If that number
Yeah.
worked and whoever took care of purchasing, if, yeah.
and seconded by Member Brown. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Last item in the in the other business file is 10.3, draft of a memo that was put together to help support counselors with communication triaging, I guess. So we worked with Cindy and Allison in a conversation with Inspector Quenville and myself to draft this. We wanted to make sure that everybody was on side and okay. It would go to council, whether that's through Friday files or however you want to do it. But we really wanted to make sure that counselors had the information at hand if they needed to be able to encourage residents to call in this complaint or the concern, and to make sure that it's timely. So I know there's a number of times where, and I'll use Councillor Pierce as an example because he's right in front of me. You might get a call from one of your constituents about a concern. We want to be able to give you the information so that you can tell that citizen to say, hey, call that into the 1-800 number, so it gets logged and it generates a call for service, and it gets an officer out to respond. If I guess the concern also is that if we wait to a police service board meeting to bring that concern up, or we wait, or it gets emailed or transferred to Inspector Quenville and she's not in the office, or away for training or vacation or meetings or whatever that is, there might not be a timely response if that's an urgent issue. So we just wanted to make sure that council members had the 1-800 number readily available to encourage them to get their constituents to call in everything. We all know everything's data driven, and we want to make sure there's a timely response. And then there's also resources in here about if citizens have concerns about policing, making a complaint about policing in general. Doesn't mean that there's not a communication channel still between inspector and anybody. It's just trying to streamline people into calling in that 1-800 number. I don't know, Inspector Quenville, if I've described that appropriately enough, or if you probably can polish it a lot better.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, it's intended to ensure operational matters get a timely response. Because oftentimes, for example, right now, I'm not checking my phone. There could be hours that go by where an officer needs to be boots on ground, and sending messages directly to me for operational matters is not the most efficient way to get resources to a scene and respond to a citizen. So this is just intended, as Chair Haley said, to provide a reference document for people to go, okay, I know that this is why we need to do it this way, and this is the number, or if it's a complaint, the resources that they can share with the community members. And it is intended to provide good service, adequate and effective service, that our citizens know that they will get a police response when their concerns are shared through the right path, and ensure community safety and timely responses.
Still provides the police service board the opportunity to bring concerns to the table in terms of community concerns, and follow up, that type of thing. But this we hope this is a tool that counselors can use. So I don't know that we need a motion, but we wanted to make sure that everybody was, on side and in support of what we're trying to do, and that it makes sense. Makes sense? Everybody good? We don't need a motion, right?
We don't have to, we can if you want, just to show the support.
Okay, and the motion would be something,
Just that you support the communications provided to council.
okay? So, anybody want to make that suggestion? Thank you, Councillor Pierce. Seconder for that? Member Verhey? Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Thank you, everybody, for that. Just another opportunity to help support and streamline, and I think that comes from, we've talked about this as a reoccurring theme, but I think that comes from having Inspector Quenville in the detachment commander's chair and just having that consistency and having that approach that is consistent moving forward. So I think it's just another one of those pieces of the puzzle. So we'll move into section 11, updates. Councillor Pierce, anything from council that you'd like to bring forward?
Not a lot. There's been a couple of things put through Brant Safe Streets regarding speeding and such, but I know the OPP are involved with Brant Safe Streets, so that'll work on that. And I will definitely, when this, when the minutes and such come to council regarding the traffic unit, I'm definitely going to make note of it there as well. I'm sure the councilors will see it, but I'm going to make note of it anyway. So that's it.
Definitely see a lot more of the traffic calming measures in different parts of the county, so that's hopefully will help.
Some of them will be taken out due to winter,
Sure.
but hopefully people have figured it out. And especially with Grand River Street North being done and people having to go out and around Oak Ave to the little speed bumps that are there as well.
They're everywhere. It's not just in Brant, they're everywhere, and it's a good tool to hopefully slow people down, so that's good.
Absolutely. But unless there's anything that anybody wants me to take back, I got nothing.
It's good so far. OAPSB Zone 4, Member Verhey.
Nothing to report.
That makes it easy. Then I'll just quickly give you an update on some of the things I've been working on. Together with Inspector Quenville, Cindy, myself, we met to discuss the feedback we received regarding the community safety group structuring process. There's some follow-up questions and some additional research that Cindy's going to do on some of the county side of things. There's some good feedback, good suggestions, some things that we'll have to work through. But at any rate, our plan is to bring that revised draft back to the board for November's meeting for consideration. We had hoped to do it sooner, but just with the timing and everything, it just didn't always work with, and Cindy's been busy, we've been busy, everybody's been busy, so it's just a matter of trying to get that through. We will also, because there's budget implications, we will need to, that'll be a November meeting as well, so we want to make sure that we still bring that community safety group proposal back so that if there is any budget considerations that it also can be included at the same time. And at the same time, we also met with Cindy, Heather, and Allison, Inspector Quenville and I did, just on the budget itself and what is possible, what isn't possible, so that next meeting we can flush out some of the community engagement pieces that we've been talking about all year long to be able to request that in the budget, that budget request that goes to council. So we'll have more for you folks to review at that time. We are moving forward on a number of things. The other thing to report on is that Inspector Quenville and I have been asked to go to a meeting with Emily O'Cal, who is the coordinator of the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan. So just as a follow-up from the last meeting, and just I think there's some rethinking about how to engage stakeholders, and so we'll go to that meeting next week and find out more, but there may be an opportunity for the Police Service Board to kind of be a conduit for information into the review and ongoing implementation of the community safety and well-being plan. I don't believe there's anything else at this time. It seems like there's been a lot, but the other thing, I guess, just to we'd like to make sure that if there's any feedback on the fall dispatch newsletter, we need to finalize that today to get that into print and into the residents' mailboxes. I emailed that out to everybody, and some of you have heard back from. But if you do have anything you'd like, so it's thanks to Inspector Quenville and her team for pulling all that great content together, and of course to county staff. Cindy, pass on our thanks to the wonderful Sarah who manages to take all this stuff and turn it into something really amazing looking. So I think it's another good piece, another good communications piece that we have for the community. So, and those are also available online on the county's website. So if anybody doesn't get them, they definitely, so we're hoping to have that printed and distributed by the beginning of November. So if anybody has any edits or suggestions, speak now or forever hold your peace. And if you have any suggestions for content for future editions, to let Inspector Quenville know. If you think there's something that people would want to see or hear and read about, let Inspector Quenville know so she can action item that as well. Don't believe there's anything else on my side. So if there's no further items to discuss, we're going to move into camera. So motion to move into camera. Thank you, Mayor Bailey. Seconded by Member Brown. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're back here in open session. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 28th of November. I just want to highlight that we currently don't have a meeting scheduled for December because that would be December 26th if we were to meet. If there's a desire, because we won't then meet again till the very end of January. So if there's a desire to meet again, we'd need to schedule something the 19th or somewhere around there. Or we just skip December, and if needed, we can always call a meeting as needed, right? So we won't schedule anything for December. So we have November 28th, and then we'll move to the end of January as our next meeting after that. And if there's nothing else, then I think we will adjourn at 10:23. Hope everybody has a good day. Thanks for a good meeting.